So thank you for being good for Ms. Meyer today. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to fill in our notes. So make sure that you're in the notes that says solving compound inequalities. Make sure you fill this in your notes. It says a compound inequality consists of two separate inequalities joined by the word and or. And today we're going to be focusing on and. We'll get to or tomorrow, but today everything is going to be and. And when you think of the word and when you're graphing inequalities, is that you have one arrow going this way and one arrow going this way, and where they overlap is going to be the solution. So this is an example of an and this is an example of an or where they go apart. And so we're going to be focusing on this one today. It says the graph of a compound inequality with and is the intersection of the graph of the inequalities. This means you want to make both true. And so we're just talking about where these lines overlap. That's what makes it true. So here's our first example. We're going to do them separately. So x is greater than negative 2. So what I would have is an open circle at negative 2 going to the right. The second one I have x is less than or equal to 1. So I would have a shaded in circle at 1 going in this direction. When we put them together, here's my open circle going in this direction. Here's my closed circle going in this direction. So what we have here is the solution is kind of this dog bone looking thing, an open circle on one end and a shaded in circle on the other. The way to read that, looking at the graph, is any number that is greater than negative 2 and less than or equal to 1. That's how we put it together. Now, how we write it is you look at the inequality that is furthest on the left. In this case, it has the negative 2. And that is our inequality right here. X is greater than negative 2. We're going to flip that. So we're going to take that, and if we flip it, we would get negative 2 is less than x. So we write that down as negative 2 less than x. Then we're going to combine it with this part right here. And to combine that, we're just going to, instead of duplicating the x, we're just going to have this x replace that x, and we would have x is less than or equal to 1. And that's how you would write it. Just take the one that's furthest on the left, in this case it would be this inequality, and flip it, leave the other one the same, and just write it next to it. Now one thing you'll notice is that the number that's the smallest, the one that's furthest on the left comes first, the one that's furthest on the right goes on the right, and we always have x in the middle. Let's take another look at another example. On this example, they're just asking us to combine these. So what I would do is I would think, which one is going to be more on the left? Well, negative 1 is going to be the one that's going to be more on the left of the number line. So I'm going to flip that one. So let's flip this. I would get negative 1 less than x. Then I'm going to take this part, and instead of duplicating the x, I'm just going to have this x, be replaced by this one. So my answer is negative 1 less than x less than 8. That's all we have to do. On this one here, we're going to graph it. And so the way that I would graph it is, we know how to do this part. Let's do that part first. So let's say I make this my 6 over here. I would have an open circle going in that direction. To graph this part, I'm going to have to flip it. So instead of negative 3 is less than x, I'm going to have x is greater than negative 3. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Here's my 0. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. I'd put negative 3 right here. Open circle going in this direction. So my solution looks like this. Now how I would read this is any number greater than negative 3 and less than 6. And that is how we do that one. Let's go to our next example. So we need to graph this one, and I'm going to do the easiest part first, this part right here. If I'm going to graph that, so here's my 5. I'm going to have a closed circle, and I'm going to be going in this direction. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So here's 0, here's 1. Then I'm going to graph this part, but I need to flip it first. So if I flipped it, I'd have x greater than or equal to 1. That would be a closed circle going in this direction. So what we have here for our solution is everything in between here. And how you would read this is any number greater or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 5. All right, let's look at our next example. The next one says, when solving compound inequalities, make sure you do the work to all 3 sides. So typically we say what you do to the left, you have to do to the right. Well, now we're going to have 3 parts. So whatever you do to the left, you have to do to the middle and the right. So there's going to be 3 steps to get these right. So in the next example, it says, follow the inequalities. Solve the following inequalities. Be sure to show all the steps. Then graph the solution if a number line is provided. So if you look at the center, we need to get this x by itself. So what's with the x is this minus 4. So we're going to add 4 to all 3 sides. So negative 7 plus 4 would be negative 3. Then negative 4 plus 4 would just leave x in the middle. And 1 plus 4 is 5. Now we can go to the point where we graph it. I'm going to graph this part first because it's the easiest. So I'm just going to start with positive 5. Let's put positive 5 over here. This would be an open circle going to the left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 is here. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Closed circle going in this direction. So what we have here is everything in between. The way that I would read this is any number greater than or equal to negative 3 and less than 5. And that would be how we did that one. Let's go to the next example. On this one, we're still looking to isolate the x. So because it's saying 3 times x, we're going to divide by 3. And remember, you have to do it to all 3 parts. So we would get 1 is less than. 3x divided by 3 would give you just x. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. So I would graph the easiest part first, which is this part. So I would have 5. I'm going to put 5 here. Closed circle at 5, going in this direction. The next part is this. I would take that and I'd flip it, and that would give me x is greater than 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here's my 1. Open circle. And so in between there. So what I have here is any number greater than 1 and less than or equal to 5. This next example is going to take multi-step. If I look at what I have inside, I've got 2x plus 3, and so I'm going to do my order of operations backwards. That tells me I have to get rid of this plus 3 first. So I'm going to minus 3 from all 3 sides. That gives me negative 6 less than or equal to 2x less than or equal to 8. Then I need to divide by 2. I would get negative 3 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 4. Now to graph it, I'm going to do the easy part first. So here's my 4. It's going to be a closed circle going in that direction. Then this side I would have to flip it. That would give me x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Negative 3 is there. Shaded in circle. So everything in between. To read this, I would say any number greater than or equal to negative 3 and less than or equal to 4. This last example that we have, I would start by looking in the middle, and I'm going to get rid of this positive 5. I'm going to minus 5 from all three sides. That gives me negative 8 less than or equal negative 2x less than negative 4. Now the next thing I'm going to do is divide everything by a negative 2. But remember, when we divide by a negative, we have to flip the inequality. So we would have positive 4 greater than or equal to x greater than positive 2. So I'd graph this part first. Say this is my 2, open circle going to the right. Say that this is 3, this would be 4, this is going to be, then we have to flip this side, so that would be x less than or equal to 4. So this would be a shaded in circle going to the right. So our graph is everything in between here. And to read this, this would be any number greater than 2 and less than or equal to 4. That concludes your notes for today. Please get started on your homework, which you can find in e-backpack.